Alright guys, so I wanted to go over this plant stand that I'm making, and alright, so this right here, this is the initial idea I had for it. Basically, my mom wanted a plant stand, so I sketched out this idea, showed it to her, she liked it, so then from here I had to actually figure out, alright, what are the dimensions, what's this actually going to look like, because as you can see this is just a really rough sketch. It's really two ideas combined into one. But so if you look around these notes, around the page, so we have, it's going to be 3 tiers. Maybe there's a little wire support right here holding this shelf up. I wanted to have half lap slaps, and then taper the legs, have through tenons, which are what these little dark areas are right here. That means that pieces of the wood, the actual joinery, is going to stick all the way through the legs to create some visual interest. And then on this side, I started measuring out and getting some rough numbers, so I had an idea of at least where to start. Alright, so the next thing I did was I used this program called SketchUp, and it's basically a 3D modeling program where you can get your ideas together. So I took this sketch mainly off of this one, and then I took some time, took me a couple hours to make this, but the beauty of having this is you can rotate all the way around it, look at it from different angles, and also if you see over here, you can actually get all the measurements marked out. That way it'll help you in the long run because you won't have to constantly be remembering what the measurements for this component are, how that's supposed to join together, and also it gives you a good idea of how this is going to look for not only proportions but distancing, how the joinery is going to look, different elements. So here, these right here, these are the through tenons I was talking about. So they're going to stick out in front of the legs. These are the half lap joints. So basically, I'm going to cut a little slot out of this apron and then cut a slot going this way out of these slats, and then they'll join together that way. These are going to be some, I believe, 1/4-inch brass dowels that I still need to figure out where to get them. And then at the bottom, these legs are going to taper. So once I get them going, the actual bottom of the leg will be skinnier than the rest of the leg. Then it will go up all the way to the top, and then we'll have a similar type of taper going on at the top. Again, that's just to add some visual interest. I could theoretically leave these all squared up, but it wouldn't be as refined looking. This just kind of brings it up a level, and I think it'll make it look a lot nicer instead of just very rectangular and blocky. So yeah, like I said, then once I created this, then I started pulling out all the different dimensions so I could actually create a cut list. So a cut list is this next tab. Alright, so that's basically when you create a chart of all the different components you're going to need. So right here, this first item, legs back. I need 2 of them. They're 1 1/2 inch thick by 1 1/2 inch wide by 57.5 inches long. So if we go back to our drawing, that's these 2 pieces right here. So these are 57.5 inches long, which means when I make them, I'm going to make them a little bit longer than that. That way I have some room to actually square things up. But so we have 2 pieces, 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch, 57.5. All right, next we have the front legs. So same idea. There's 2 of them. They're just a little shorter, and you can see that here, there, and there. The next one, aprons long. Alright, so we have long aprons, short aprons, and top aprons. They're not really scientific names, but the aprons are these pieces right here that go across. Those are the long ones. This one from the end of this tenon to end of this tenon, that is the short one. It's obviously shorter than the long apron. And then if we go up to the top, these they're basically half aprons. Those are the small ones that I discussed in the cut list. So again, here are the dimensions for them, how many of them I need, and then these are just little notes for the different types of joinery they're going to have. Again, this is to help you plan, so getting all these notes down. If I don't get back to this for a couple weeks, I'll have my ideas all together here, so I won't be wondering, all right, how was I going to do that? Also, it helps if someone else was going to create this. They can look through your notes and figure out what's what. Alright, the slats. So I need 21 of the slats. They're half an inch by half an inch by 24 inches. Those are these skinny little pieces over here that are going to have the half laps connecting to the aprons. They're going to be what makes up the body of the shelf. So that's where the plants will actually sit. And then if you can see right here in the middle of these, this little support piece, I'm adding that in because these are running 24 inches and they're kind of skinny. So if you put something smack dab in the middle right here, I'm a little worried that there's going to be no support, so these small pieces will start to bow. So that's why I'm mortise and tenon in this little support piece on all of those, just to add a little extra strength. So this is a cut list. Again, any kind of project you do, or anyone does in the woodworking world, is going to have a cut list. Whether it's written down on a piece of paper, typed up in a document like this, nobody's getting everything done in an hour. This just helps so when you come back the next day, or like I said, a couple of days from now, a week from now, or if someone else is working on your ideas, or even if a year from now, you decided, all right, I really like that table I made. Now one of my friends wants that as a gift. Let me bring up the plans so I can create the same table again instead of having to try and remember how you did it. Having a cut list makes everything nice and simple. All right, so the next thing, after I started working, I started writing down as I completed pieces how many of them I did, and the actual measurements they have in their rough dimensions. Again, this is helpful because now I can compare this to the cut list and be like, all right, I've cut 6 of the short aprons, and for the short aprons, I needed 6 of them. And my initial plan was for half-inch wide, or half-inch thick by 2 inches wide by 13 inches long. So let's see, I cut them 15-30 seconds. So that is a 32nd of an inch shorter than a half inch. So I might have to tweak my plans a little bit. But as you'll see as I show you more videos of this, I'm going to have to change my process a little bit just because the material that I used mainly for the legs wasn't the dimensions I was thinking. So I changed some dimensions around on the fly, and I've got to rework my plan just to ensure all my measurements are going to work. Really, because when it comes down to doing the joinery, if I use my initial dimensions, but the pieces I have aren't those, things aren't going to fit correctly. So it'll make more sense as I show you more videos down the line. But again, this is what I've created as of this point when I took this picture. And I left a little note to myself, maybe make the slats a little wider. But again, this helps keep track. That way, the next day when I came back, I didn't have to count through all the different pieces I'd cut. I have a nice list of where I left off, which makes my life simpler. And then this last picture is just a little fun picture as I was working, taking offcuts off of different pieces from a CNC project. I was cutting these to get the boards off of them, and I noticed they look like dinosaurs. So I'm going to start scattering them around my friend's shop as a little surprise for every now and then he'll find a little dinosaur. All right, so if you guys have any questions, let me know.